So I wanted to send some encouragement and some direction and just speak from my heart to some of my former students that may be watching this and just to anybody out there that may be dealing with this. Yesterday I received some disturbing news concerning one of my students, and I want to speak to that. I realize that life is difficult for many of you. And I realize that many times, given the circumstances, given where you may live, where you may come from, what your family environment is, that the choices that it seems that you have are slim. I grew up in a family that I believe my mom and dad loved me. I didn't many times get along with my father. I felt abandoned. I felt rejected. I worked hard because when I looked around and I saw where I was from, I realized that hardly anybody was doing anything. And so I decided to work hard to be smart. And I knew that I wasn't athletically gifted. I knew that given the circumstances, I didn't want to go to the military. I knew that about my life, but I knew that I did not want to get stuck where I was. And so I worked my behind off. And I went to school, and many times, just me and my best friend Chester were the only ones, and then Aquisha Speller was the only ones in honors classes that looked like us. And many times I was the only black person in my class that looked like me. But I didn't let that stop me, because I knew that if I wanted to be somebody and do something with my life, I had to work hard. And it didn't, despite when I looked around and I saw my environment, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me, black men or black men. It didn't stop me, because I saw myself in a future that didn't look like where I was. And so it was uncomfortable at times. It didn't seem right at times. I was looking around. I wanted to help my friends and bring them up to a different standard and encourage them to be all that they wanted to be. But it hurts sometimes when you look around and you don't see yourself. And it's hard. I know it's hard to rise above a standard, because many times we are who we see. We don't want to be different things like doctors, lawyers, or even teachers, because many times we don't have an example of that. When we look on TV, we see the rappers, we see the singers, we see the entertainers, we see the athletes, we see all those people. And when we look in our community, many times the people that got the money, the people that's throwing out the bands, like we say, are the ones that are selling drugs, that are doing things that are illegal. And many times you don't see a hard-working man. And sometimes it's hard when you don't see those things to rise above that. But I came up here to tell somebody that you have the power to rise above this, because it wasn't easy for me. It still is not easy for me. Sometimes to make the decisions, sometimes to rise above the situations in life. But if you want better, you're going to have to work for better. And you can't let your environment dictate to you how to live this life. If you see greatness inside of you, go for that greatness. You might be the only one. Many times I was the only one. I remember walking and into a meeting, and I looked around and I saw that I was the only black man there. And I've been there for years and didn't understand how that environment, I was so used to saying, well, I'm going to get what I need to do, and I'm going to do what I need to do despite what's around me. But I knew that that was a factor. And I want to tell every young black man that feels like you don't have a way out, that feels like, because the struggle is real. And if I can do it, so can you. And I'm so tired of looking and seeing on social media some of the things that and the choices that you all are making. But I know why. And I don't judge you. I just pray for you, because I know that in the end that God will save many of you all's lives. But I do understand that if I and other people like me don't reach out their hand and to encourage you to do better, you won't. So I challenge you Despite all the drugs that's going on, despite all the temptation it is to jump from one person to the next, despite all the fact that many of you all don't have fathers and you don't even know what a black man going to work looks like every morning, I encourage you to find someone, find something online, reach out to somebody so that you can make it. Because once you're locked up, your choices to becoming a better person gets harder. It's already hard enough when you don't see me, or you don't see your principal, or you don't see people in leadership looking like who you are. It's already hard enough. As soon as you get a case on your life, it becomes even harder. And getting out of that system becomes even harder. You don't have to smoke the weed. You don't have to sell the drugs. I promise you all, y'all are killing our community because the stereotypes are killing you inside, and that's the way you feel like you need to get out. But I just want to say to every person listening to me that you can stop selling the drugs. You might need to work the McDonald's. You might need to go to the Walmart so that you can have the dream that you can have without looking over your shoulder wondering who's coming after you. And because what's happening is that we're killing our own community. Black lives matter, but our black lives matter enough so that we can stop the cycle that's in our community. What if your mother's on those drugs? Your sister, your brother. We think that we're just trying to make a hustle and we're trying to make our money and try to do those things. But what if your loved one starts smoking crack, gets addicted to heroin? The very thing that you're out here trying to do to make a living. Imagine your mom on that. We're selfish because the system has set us up to be selfish. But I know somebody's listening to me today and they want to make a change. And I encourage you to make this change in your life. You're important, and greatness is inside of you, despite what the world says, despite what your mom and dad may have said, despite the fact that you may want love and you may want affection and you're trying to get it the best way that you know how. There is greatness inside of you. And maybe you don't know it because nobody ever told you. But I'm here to tell you today, because a lot of times I didn't hear it from myself, and I had to discover it for myself. The path that you're on is going to lead to a road that you will be able to get off of. But you're going to waste so much time. Stop selling drugs in our community. Stop having babies. Find the love of God so that you can love yourself. I pray that lives will be changed, and that at the end of the day you'll find the love of Christ to change your life like He changed my life. I didn't know who I was until I found Christ. I didn't know I had a voice. I didn't know anything about who God created me to be. And as I sit in my mom's house today, I'm just reminded of how I was raised and what my parents instilled inside of me. And despite everything they did try, I had to go through my own struggles. But at the end of the day, I am who I am because of the choices I've made and because of the God that I serve. You can change. Ask me how I know. Because I did. God bless.